Khalifa, they consider the fifth Khalifa Hassan or Abdul Aziz and Umar bin Abdul Aziz?
Hassan.
Hassan.
That's Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, called Khalifa as a denomination and ijtihad, not as hukm. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith, I mean, someone need to go back to the hadith, but he said it's going to be khilafah al-Rashida, and then it's going to be kind of sovereignty or kingdom. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned also the time how it's going to be. So according, if you go to the history and to the hadith to match them, you find the last one is Al-Hassan. And he only was for a very short time. And he the one who solved the whole fitna after the death of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He the one who solved the fitna of the tahkim, and he gave it to Muawiyah. He said, that's most important, the unity of the Muslim, than to do anything. And he gave it to Muawiyah with the condition that after Muawiyah it's him. This kind of conflict. Radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he died before that. And then Muawiyah passed it to Zayd or Yazid. طيب, any question? Do you need this? Bismillah. You want this? طيب. We try, inshallah, to finish today. We're going to have barakah, but I will tell you what are the most important parts. We are in the characteristic. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So we did min indillahi al-shumul wal-umum. Now al-jaza'u in the Islam. The fourth point, the reward or the recompense in the Islam. Al-jaza'u in Islam is one of the characteristics of Islam. Wal-jaza', it is really one of the characteristics because Islamic action, they are rewarded in the dunya and the akhirah. And the main reward or punishment is mainly in the hereafter. And that is like for the believer is how to have an akhirah part of his daily life, part of his own decision. When he's going to take a decision, he knows that he needs to be prepared, that he's going to be, answering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about that type of decision and whatever consequences that, had or the consequences resulted from those decisions. That's why someone, when he's going to move to the next step, he wants that next step will be really in the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, al-jaza, it is way of to be a driving power for the action of the person. Driving power in a way, and is all at the same time it restricts him and restrain him from doing a lot of things. Because someone's iman is levels. The levels that will drive in him toward the height, to action, is attachment and love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in the other, the iman can be also the attachment to Allah, the love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not for everyone. To be at high level, to be the driving power, that someone driving him to do the action and everything. Also, what will be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared for everyone, from the believer, from ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا خطر على قلب بشر. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared for the believer, what no eye have ever seen or imagination have ever imagined, or no ear have ever heard before. And it is in the nature of the human being. It is in the nature of the human being. Two aspects that we mentioned before, it is in our nature. is to longing always for longer life and to be ambitious. And ambition can be fulfilled with a lot of things. With the higher position, with the higher, more belonging to more properties, more enjoyment, all of that. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this nature in us to be only fulfilled in the hereafter in the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the jaza. So someone having patience, what will be the fuel of that patience? If someone having patience for nothing that is going to come after it, he will collapse. He cannot have this patience. Because Allah made it to be natural in the nature of the human being that if there is nothing that you longing for to make you be patient, then you cannot be patient. And Allah mentioned, remind you that we talked about it before, the story between Musa and Al-Khidr, Al-Rajul Al-Salih, the righteous man. Musa, he said, you will find me from those who be patient. قال وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا. It's going to be difficult for you to be patient on something that you do not know. For example, say, have patience, we're going to, we're not going to have a food for some time. We're going to be going through hardship. We're going to travel through the desert. But after this travel, we're going to get to, a place, a fortress, where we're going to find everything, where we're going to be welcome. So, that thought, that belief, that certainty in the one who's telling you that at the end of the destination all our problems are going to be solved, that was going to be the fuel for the patience, for the endurance. But to say, when I say cross the desert, what we're going to find? It's the same thing as here. So it's better I stay here, I don't even move. So al-jaza'u in Islam, the reward in Islam, and this spirit have someone to be always driven to do better. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us not only that what you're going to find, but what will be the best to be the closest to Allah. How someone can be the closest to Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us the most honored, the most seen by Allah, the closest to Allah. He's the one who showed the most piety and the more piety, right? Inna akramakum inda Allahi atqakum. And this is a characteristic which makes someone to have that decision, planning, everything is based on the hereafter, which is really designed the structure of his life according to this great purpose of life. And this is only characteristic in Islam, which this system of reward englobe and encompass all the types of the action. You see, for example, other system of reward is they make them, for example, in the faith, they live their life according to their own whims, in full disconnection of the hereafter. So someone is already saved, so he lives his life according to what he thinks is good. In Islam, the only good that know that it will be assuring, if you can say, the well-being for the universe here is your action of implementing the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by implementing the law of Allah, you're going to contribute in achievement of the well-being and the welfare of the earth and the humankind, as we discuss it and we know according to the way of Allah. But in the same time, that will be your motivation to get to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if someone is saved in the hereafter, that's it, he's in the Jannah, he's guaranteed. That there is a full disconnection, so which create a dual and parallel way of life. A dual way of life, like one for the belief and one for the God, which they can reserve it 1 hour a week or like 1 hour a year, but something is, that's it, is being, classified, put on the side. Now come to the life, enjoy it the way you want. But in enjoying it is doing the mischief and leading everything to corruption, because when you use your system, In the system of the whims, limited system, and leads to corruption. And this is the characteristic of Islam in the system of reward, how to combine every individual. He's working hard not only to contribute to the well-being of the universe, but what driving him is that real life that he's going to live, because he was created for eternity, and it is the reward that you're going to see, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَلَا إِنَّ الْآخِرَةَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ. And the believer, that he was hiding his belief from the family of Fir'aun, قال يا قوم اتبعوني أهدكم سبيل الرشاد يا قوم إنما هذه الحياة الدنيا متاع وإن الآخرة هي دار القرار. Oh my people, follow me. I guide you to the way that is upright. I guide you to the way of truth. He's talking to Fir'aun and his people. And he let them know the meaning of the life. Ya qawm, O my people. This life is a life of like mata'. Something for mata' is like he's going to live it and he's going to end. It's like a merchandise, like a commodity. You use it and that's it, it's gone. وَإِنَّ الْآخِرَةَ هِيَ دَارُ الْقَرَارِ. But the life, or the life where someone is going to live forever in it. Al-Qararu is the dwelling. Al-Qararu is the cool of the eye and the safety where he's going to find in this life of eternity that is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يوم تجد كل نفس ما عملت من خير محضرا وما عملت من سوء تود لو أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا. The day when every soul will find whatever they have presented, whatever they have earned from good and from bad. And that bad part, they wish that is, they would be far from it, تود لو أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا. They wish that this bad doesn't exist, that this mischief that they did and presented into sins in their record, that they don't exist. They wish to run away from it, and all of that. Now, subhanallah, this is the result of our action in the akhirah. فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. That's the balance. Whoever will do whatever grain, as small as grain or the seed or atom of good, he will see it. And whatever, someone will do as small as an atom or as a seed from sins or from mischief, he will see it. Now imagine how the mentality and the spirit of the believer in his life, when he knows مثقال ذرة شر, he's going to be accountable for it. One of in the narration say, even for someone with his friend, holding him or grabbing him from his clothes, or pulling him, that he's going to find it in his record. Sometimes friends joking together, but they can't get tough on each other, and someone hold the other one. Say that you cannot find those, as small as those things, you find it in your record. So subhanAllah, in every action, someone with this system, he's mindful of his action. He's mindful of his saying. He's mindful of his decision. And this is a characteristic in Islam that live and relevant for all time and every human being and every space. The next one is al-mithaliyatu wal-waqi'iyya. The last point here you see, al-mithaliyatu wal-waqi'iyya. Idealism and realism. Al-mithaliyatu is al-kamal al-mumkin. The possible perfection, the possible excellence into the personality of the believer. So Islam is calling us to this possible like, let's say, within our capacity of excellence. That's what we call al-ihsan. But without ignoring and neglecting the nature and the structure of the human being. What are his limits? So the call to perfection, to excellence, that is al-mithaliyah. To be, to target the highest possible. That's the idealism. That's someone's goal. And to take care of the limit of the human being, of his restriction, of his weakness, that's the waqi'iyah. That's his reality. So Islam, the balance which we said here, is the principle of moderation and exhaustiveness. The moderation is when you call someone to pray, you're not gonna tell him pray 5 times a prayer, and every prayer you have to pray nafila with it, and then add to it the standing in the night, qiyamul layl. That will be, you are calling him for excellence, for idealism. When you call person, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, what he make an obligation is within the capacity of every human being. 5 prayer, everyone can do it. That's the minimum requirement that meet the natural disposition and structure of the human being, that goes with the natural weakness that he is, like he created with. But the believer, he's always eager and hasten to get to the next higher level. That will be the state of the ihsan. The state of the ihsan. Look, the travel that someone take in his lifetime within the way of Allah. He start by saying, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That by witness there's no God except Allah worthy of worship, and the Prophet ﷺ, he's the messenger, he's Muslim. That's it, he's Muslim. But the process of cleansing, the process of purification, the process of multiplication of the action, the process of loving the good action and hating mischief and corruption, it takes a long time. The waqi'iyah, the reality in Islam, the realism, how is practical. Islam doesn't require for you to cleanse yourself to come for Allah to accept you. Come as you are. Just believe and surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you travel to the highest level, let's say the possible excellence within the nature and the structure of the human being. That's a travel, that's the mujahada. That's the mujahada. So it's not the one who reached the excellence or the high position is accepted, no. And this is how Islam, teach us the moderation, teach us how to have rahmah on others, teach us on how to view, on how to structure even our judgment on ourselves, on others, based on realism and idealism. The best of the example, of course, in this, who sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he incorporated everything good in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look, the good example, the light is the wahy. The light is the revelation of the wahy. So the source of the light is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who absorbed this whole light is the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's why Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha قالت كان القرآن, he was the Quran walking, subhanallah. Therefore he is like the lantern, perfect lantern for the whole humankind to borrow and to get the light from him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's why getting the light directly from the Quran will have someone an instability in the way of the moderation and the balance of the life. Someone who loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a great love. He said the minimum I can do for, to be grateful to Allah, I will be always in salah, always in prayer, right? Being always in prayer, he gonna violate the right of his own body. He gonna violate the right of his own family. He going to be someone who's, burden on the society because he's not contributing in production. He's not contributing in health. So I say, your way of being grateful to Allah is indeed fighting the law of Allah the way how it needs to be implemented. That structure and balance between, fulfilling your right to yourself, fulfilling the right to Allah, fulfilling the right to your family, to the society, all of that combination, how to put them together, it really cannot be, achieved by the way of ijtihad. Because someone, he always has something in himself that he likes more than the other. The only full balance can be achieved only by the following of the steps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why in hadith قال لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت به. It will not be a full believer, any one of you, till his whims, his desires will be conformed, will be fully submitted to what is being revealed to me. And the revelation to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is the Quran and the way that being implemented by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because those, the companion, they came to ask about the action of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the hadith sahih, and known that when they heard about the Prophet action, some of them, they taqalluha, they felt it's not much. And they said, the Prophet ﷺ, indeed Allah forgave him everything, future sin and past sin. So that's the reason why he's doing, he's not doing much according to their mind. One of them قال, I will, pray the night and I will not sleep. The other one, he say, I'll fast and I will never, miss a day of fasting. The other one, he said, I will never get married, to just focus on the ibadah. When the Prophet ﷺ heard that and he spoke in the masjid, he said, about those who say that, but I'm doing the opposite of what they're doing. I fast and I break and eat, and I break my fast. I fast days without fasting. And I pray the night and I sleep and I marry women. And said, this is my sunnah. This is my sunnah, which means this is the way to practice and implement the law of Allah. That's the perfection in this way. وَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. And whoever who deviates, whoever who turn away from this path, he's not one of my followers. He's not one of my followers. Because when someone wants to do it in his way, he's going to fall into extremism, into tatarruf, kind of the fanaticism, and this type of fanaticism will really corrupt the way of the implementation of the deen. Well, so this is the type of the moderation and the obligation to have the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the example. Let's say muqawwimat, what are the aspects for the believer to implement this balance between al-mithaliyah wal-waqi'iyah. The first one is al-i'tidal. The first one is al-i'tidal. Al-i'tidalu is defined by عدم الإفراط ولا التفريط. So, someone is in the balance. Ifrat is like he will do it more than ask it, or more than his capacity, or he's forcing himself. And tafrit is like someone is like neglecting part of what he's been asked for. So the middle is to not do it in an excessive way and not to neglect it. That's al-i'tidal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ الْقَوَامَ. Those who spend in the sake of Allah, they don't waste. It doesn't come, for example, he has, $1,000, he said, I'll give it in the sake of Allah. Then what are you going to eat? Are you going to beg now? So this is israf, this is waste. And someone, for example, when he has 1,000, he will not give anything. That's iqtar, stingy, greed. In the zakat, one of the forbidden action in the zakat, to give the best of your capital. For example, someone is a farmer, he has, cows that is really the main of his capital, the main of his, farm. This give him milk and everything. He said, in zakat, I will give that one for zakat. The Sharia told him, no, this is what you're going to use for yourself. This is the main source of your income. Don't give that. Give another one. Give from the young one, So it will be israf, even in the zakat. And this is how the Sharia make the i'tidal. So someone will say, I want to target high, I want to be, give everything for Allah. And I say, by giving this, you're going to hurt yourself. So you need to be in the state of moderation. ولا تجعل يدك مغلولة إلى عنقك ولا تبسطها كل البسط فتقعد ملوما محسورا. The same meaning of the ayah that we mentioned. And exactly in this type of balance, remember the hadith that I mentioned about those who were asking about the action of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ, how he answered them. One, the type of the moderation and al-i'tidal, and to be balanced, Islam never ordered or commanded or implied in the ibadat, in the worship, for someone to torture himself, or to torture his body, or to hit himself. The Prophet ﷺ in a hadith رأى رجلا قائما في الشمس فسأل عنه فقالوا يا رسول الله إنه نذر أن يقوم في الشمس ولا يقعد. He saw someone standing in the sun. It's a strange situation. He said, what happened to this man? He said he vowed to Allah to stand in the sun, and he doesn't, and he will not sit. ولا يستظل ولا يتكلم ويصوم, and he will not be shaded or look at a shaded place, and he will not speak, and he will be fasting. Look, the Prophet ﷺ said, قال مروه فليتكلم وليقعد وليتم صومه. This is the balance. He said, command him to speak, to sit, get rest, and to finish his fasting. The fasting is a base. It is in the Sharia. All the rest is a bid'ah. Let him continue his fasting, and he go sit in a shady place, and he need to speak. So all of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't command us to do it. So it will be mubalagha, tatarruf, excessiveness in the way of the ibadah.
And he don't need kafara for.
No. He did it with his own effort, thinking that he's getting closer to Allah. Someone will not get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by standing in the sun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want by you as a worship to torture you. That's not right, that's awkward. Or those from many strange stories been narrated on the people of the book before. People, for example, they don't use one of their eye for a long time. He always have an eye covered. Why? Because he vowed to Allah. He make like nether to Allah to not use his eye. Or someone, he said, I will not wash my hair for like 2 years. You're gonna bother everyone next to you. عن أنس رضي الله تعالى عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم دخل المسجد فإذا حبل ممدود بين الساريتين فقال ما هذا. The Prophet ﷺ entered the masjid, and between the two pillars there is like a rope attached. قالوا حبل لزينب, daughter of the Prophet. حبل. قال فإذا فترت تعلقت به. She will be praying till she cannot even stand, so she holds on the rope. فقال حلوه. He said, untie it. So the intention is to do the maximum for Allah, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that excessiveness is tatarruf. You are getting out of the i'tidal, so it becomes against what you intended to do. If you are sleepy, if someone is sleepy, you have to go sleep, because that will be the ibadah. The right ibadah, the right worship, it will be to sleep on that time, because your body requires that sleep. But to sleep holding on ropes, that's not the body right to be, to give him this type of rest. And it's not from the ibadah. So the Prophet ﷺ teaches us how is the balance and to be moderate in the way of the ibadah.
Question, Sheikh.
Yeah.
What would the proper interpretation be of the ayah, for Zakaria, قال آيتك ألا تكلم الناس ثلاثة.
That's it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sign for the people of Zakaria, and they had one of the type of the worship is to not speak. And when the Prophet doesn't speak, they know that he has a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it was a sign for his people. So when he going to have Yahya, they know that was the sign. So it was in the people of the book before. But this one and the takallum, we'll talk about it. I mean, what type of speech someone to be saying, because this one he said, about to not speak, that's wrong. He take it as a ibadah. But Zakaria, it was for him a sign. قال رب اجعل لي آية, sign. قال آيتك ألا تكلم الناس. So this is your sign for your people that you're getting this revelation for the coming of Yahya.
Was it imposed on him, or was it?
It's a revelation.
No, I mean, was he unable to speak, or did he
No.
refrain from speaking?
صوم, like exactly Maryam قالت إني نذرت للرحمن صوما فلن أكلم اليوم إنسيا. That was the order of Isa in one narration, and the other narration says Jibril عليه السلام. قال فناداها من تحتها, and we have either Jibril or من تحتها, it will be like from the side, which is or Isa عليه السلام himself. But it will be it's not speaking like controlling the self. وفي وصية رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لعثمان ابن مضعون قال فإن لأهلك عليك حقا وإن لضيفك عليك حقا فصم وافطر وصل ونام. Uthman ibn Mad'un, he was into the worship, fasting the day and praying the night. And his family was complaining. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the balance is think your family has a right on you, your guest has a right on you, and fast, waftar, and miss days, you have to break your fast or to eat, wasalli wanam, and pray and sleep. So this is the balance, And if someone also deprive himself from the gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to an extreme way, that's also is not accepted in the Sharia. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قال يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تحرموا طيبات ما أحل الله لكم ولا تعتدوا. So it's i'tida. It's a way of i'tida to really control. I'tida is like to go, is like type of oppression or to go against the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when someone make haram things that Allah made halal for him. وَكُلُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَنْتُمْ بِهِ مُؤْمِنُونَ. But always there is analysis in this. There's analysis because someone can be, when he's in position of being an example for others. Like Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu in Ameur Ramada, he was the one who doesn't eat anything. Why? Because he is the one that everyone is looking at him, you know. And having the poor among the believers, when they see their leader is like them, that it really gives them more confidence. So it depends on the situation, but we're talking about a general situation. Or someone, for example, will not use something because he wants to have it to give it to someone else who's in need. So it depends on the situation. But this is in the general way. Someone cannot, for example, make intentionally something haram and say, this is, you know, I want to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by this action. The second aspect of you know, the balance in the way of al-mithaliya wal-waqi'iyya is ash-shumul. Ash-shumul is to be exhaustive in all the action, which is mean to have the balance in all the action, not to prefer one action and to ignore the other one, not to be like someone who pray all the time, but someone he's not really mindful of what he's saying, and he, for example, he's not really. There's people, subhanallah, when it comes to promise, they don't have the, you know, or for example, respecting appointment or things like that, which is from the characteristic of the believer. To say the truth is a characteristic of a believer. You find him praying all the time and, you know, devoted in the prayer. When it comes to mu'amalat, in the relationship with people, he doesn't respect the word, he doesn't respect the promise. He's not, you know, up to the character, to great character of the believer. And this is really make like an instability or non-balance in the personality of the believer. And this is not accepted. So one of the aspects of the believer to be in the moderate and the balanced way is to explore, you know, or to have from everything the balanced way. And then if he's going to go to the next level, it's going to be like in an exhaustive way. So it's like the whole personality, you know, the whole personality goes up. In part of the sadaq, in part of the trust in his heart, the love of Allah, prayer. So it's all combined together. For example, the example of the companion, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim, at the time of the prayer, you see them hasten to the prayer to the masjid. In the time of the circle of knowledge, you see them listening and sitting there, concentrated learning. And in time of the qital, if there's a fight or there's, you know, battles, you find them in the first row running, you know, to fight in the sake of Allah. And in the time of difficulties and calamities, you find them helping others, remind them to help them, you know, be patient. And this is what the way of the Sahaba radwanullahi ta'ala alayhim. Like look, the example of Abu Bakr, he will not let the time but to invest in that time with a good action. When the Prophet ﷺ said, if there's anyone among you who today visited sick, he said, me ya Rasulullah. Who went into janazah, he said, me ya Rasulullah. Who did this, me ya Rasulullah. So he already in that part of the day, it was in the morning, he did almost all the action possible to be close to Allah, to fulfill his action and his, you know, sadaq and truthfulness of his iman. And this is how balanced they were in their action, how balanced they were into their action. And this is what we call ash-shumul, When we talk about al-waqi'iyya, so this is the best how when someone target to the highest level, he need to have this two characteristics, two aspects: al-i'tidalu, moderation, and the exhaustiveness, al-shumulu, in all his action. He will not like come to one. It's like someone, for example, he has a house, he wants to clean this house, you know, and he has, for example, 10 hours to do it. He'll come to one corner of one room and he make it like so clean, shiny. And say, did you do it? He said, yeah, I cleaned it. When you enter, everything is dirty. He said, yeah, I cleaned this corner. I said, that's not cleaning. It still look dirty. But when someone he wants to clean, he's going to clean all the sides of it. He's going to take that time and try to clean it in everything. That's how someone needs to cleanse his soul. He needs to target all the good action, all the good action, all the good character, all the good behavior. He wants to be generous, he wants to be forbearing, he wants to be someone who forgive, he wants to be someone who help, he wants to have khushu' in salah, he wants to fast when he can, he wants all to do all that. But how to do that is first to be at the level of waqi'iyyah, to first be realistic with himself. And realistic is to start by doing the minimum requirement in the Sharia, obligations. Do not lie. So fight lying, fight breaking promise, fight distraction in the salah, and that's how it starts. But someone, or the first thing he target as soon as he get to the practice of the deen or being serious, the first thing he target will be the subhanallah قيام الليل. That's people of that. قيام الليل دأب الصالحين ودأب من كان قبلكم. Everyone, like, he think of قيام الليل, he will do it for like some time and then everything is gone. But this is how the misbalance when someone started like that. We'll go to the prayer inshallah and we'll come back.
Related to this, to الاعتدال
Sure.
the incident of Ameur ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he was trying to thinking that he can compete with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu.
Yeah.
And at the time when everyone got sadaqah, and then Abu Bakr as-Siddiq got everything that he has. So how can I understand this from the point of view of...
Well, that's the mithali. That's the mithaliya in a way. Well, the i'tidal is to balance. But what Abu Bakr did, his i'tidal is related to his yaqeen. Because when the Prophet ﷺ said, what did you leave for your family? قال Allah wa Rasul. Who can say do that? So the highest level of i'tidal. But the i'tidal, when we say the i'tidal, that's why it depends on the situation of the person. For example, the scholars, al-Aimma, say, either someone can travel without taking on the provision with him, because he believes he's going to Allah, gonna give him, he's going to feed him. Allah will not, let him down. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will surely provide for him. The scholar, they say, yes, he can. For example, Imam Ahmad was asked. He said with the condition that he would not have in his heart that if there's a problem, he wishes that he'll find someone, Allah sent him someone to help him. That will negate that action. Or someone, he said he will do it, but he should not be like he think that if there's people that are going to be burden on them. So the i'tidal here, it depends on the situation of the person. If someone really has his heart full tawakkul, and he knows that he will not going to ask anybody, but he knows certain, he can feel it in his heart that Allah is with him, say go. But someone, for example, say Allah will provide me, but he doesn't have it in his heart. Sometimes always find like backup solution in his mind without feeling. He said, inshallah, I will find the caravan, they're going to help me. So you have to take your provision. You have to take it. وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. And he said, provide, but the best of the provision is the taqwa. Why? Because people of the Yemen, they used to go to Hajj or to travel and relying on people. So they become like a burden. And they say, oh, trusting Allah, Allah provide us. You are a burden on people. So if someone will do it, really feel it, that Allah is going to be with him, Allah is going to provide him, scholars, they say, okay, do it. So Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said something that who can, come to that great type of, he's the Siddiq. There's, he's the Siddiq. That's it. قال تركت لهم الله ورسوله. That's the highest level of yaqeen which match the meaning of the i'tidal in his situation, radiallahu ta'ala. And this is the waqi'iyya, because we cannot ask that from everybody else. Umar, he didn't get to that level to feel it, to do it. He gave half. And that's the i'tidal in the level of Umar. The i'tidal of others, they give like whatever they can. Al-waqi'iyya fil Islam, realism in Islam, or how to be like realistic by considering everyone's reality, And Islam doesn't ignore the nature of the structure of the human being. It's very important. In this perspective, Islam made the minimum requirement and then the highest target for al-mithali. And the minimum requirement, or the lowest level, it has, character, behavior, obligation that the believer need to observe to be in the level of believer, to be in the level of the believer. You find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying many ways to tell us, how Allah, He never subhanahu wa ta'ala, arhamur rahimin, want to put a burden on us. وَمَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. He didn't put any burden or any hardship in you in the deen. لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وَسْعَهَا. Allah doesn't bear or make a person to bear more than he can bear. Allah doesn't put any capacity higher than that someone can lift or can bear. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Look at the salah. 5 times, 5 prayer that obligatory. This is the lowest level. And the nawafil enter in the level of targeting high, climbing up. But if someone only make the 5 prayer, that's it, he's accepted. And the Arabi said, I will not add anything. قال لو صدق صدقه الله. The Arabi, when he talking to the Prophet ﷺ in the presence of Mu'adh ibn Jabal, told him what Allah made obligation on me. And after the Prophet ﷺ named for him the pillars, he said, I will not do more than that. I only will do that. So the Prophet ﷺ said, if he'll sadaq, if he'll do what Allah asked him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala get him in His mercy and embrace him in His mercy subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you see the nawafil, for example, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, 12 rak'ah a day, up to 16, up to what someone, can be able to do. Coming to the siyam, the same thing. The obligation is Ramadan. The rest is tatawwa. So someone cannot, for example, say, why you don't fast 3 days a month, or why you don't observe the Monday and Thursday. That will not be even question for someone to ask, because that's part of the tatawwa. The same thing, al-hajj wal-umrah. Hajj an obligation, umrah is tatawwa. And even the hajj, لِمَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا, for those who can afford it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the sadaqah, the obligation is a zakat. The rest, قال وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَلِأَنفُسِكُمْ. Whatever you give in the sake of Allah is for yourself. وَمَا تُنْفِقُونَ إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ اللَّهِ. And you only given in the sake of seeking the pleasure of Allah. وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يُوَفَّ إِلَيْكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تُظْلَمُونَ. And whatever you give in the sake of Allah is going to be, Allah reward you with it. And you never be, at least in any way, to be, oppressed or dealt with injustice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, in al-qatl al-amd, when it comes to al-hudud, someone who intentionally killed another person with no right. قال يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم القصاص في القتل. So soul for soul, life for life. And who has the authority to ask for that and to observe that are the family of the deceased one, or the one who deceased, the one who was killed. But the family, this is their right. But the Sharia give them their right, but also they can target high by forgive. So the Sharia will not obligate the family of the killed one to forgive the killer. Doesn't obligate. قال القصاص النفس بالنفس. So that's what satisfy the feeling, and will be for the family. That's the right, for our child or our brother or anyone who was killed. The right is for the other one to pay for it by being killed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال فمن عفي له من أخيه شيء فاتباع بالمعروف وأداء إليه بإحسان. But if someone will forgive, that will be greater. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال وإن عاقبتم فعاقبوا بمثل ما عوقبتم به. It will be, hurt. You will, pay it, or you get your right by the same way that you've been hurt. Someone was killed, only that person, the killer, who going to be punished. That's it. Don't for one person you kill the whole tribe. That's haram. That's it. عاقبتم فعاقبوا بمثل ما عوقبتم به. And then قال ولئن صبرتم. But if you be patient, is better. And being patient by forgiving. So you target to al-mithali. It's not an obligation to forgive, but if you seek a higher reward from Allah, then Allah will reward you by doing such a thing. But it's not an obligation. And this is the balance between al-waqi'iyya wal-mithali. No one will blame you by taking your own right. But if you forgive, you're going to be an example for others. You're going to have that person and his family to be like, totally different people, and whatever impact, positive impact, will give forgiveness in this situation, for example. But it's not an obligation. This is al-waqi'iyya. You have a question?
Yeah. When you say the family has to forgive, is that everybody in the family has to forgive, or is it the majority of the family has to forgive?
The one who has the right to forgive.
Like, let's say the mother didn't forgive, but everybody else did. The father.
Oh, this is not the question of the class. But it depends. It depends. The one who has the right is the parents in this case. For example, if the child is the parents, if both of them they forgive, so they forgive. But it doesn't mean, by the way, if he's been forgiven, that the killer is going to be letting loose. No. Then the hakam, the rulers, that they forgive to not be killed, but he's going to be punished by being in the prison and everything, because there's the right of the society too. So forgiven about killing. I mean, to be killed, you'll be forgiven. But the hakam, the ruler, he will have another thing to do with him. The same in Al-Amru bil-Ma'ruf wa-Nahy an al-Munkar, the way of enjoying good and forbid evil. So it depends on the situation. Someone, for example, can keep it in his heart, but there's people of known of being example in the society, being example in the deen. He will stand against the tyrant and speak to him, and he call him to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith, قال سيد الشهداء حمزة ورجل قام إلى إمام جائر فدعاه فنهاه فقتله. The master, the greatest of the shuhada is Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And he said, a man stood against a tyrant, and he called him for the way of Allah, and he forbid him to do what he's doing, and this tyrant killed this person. He dies a shaheed, he will be in the same level of Hamza. But in the same time, the Prophet ﷺ said in a situation of Ameur radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he was forced to say the words of kufr, he said to the Prophet ﷺ, told them, وَإِنْ عَادُوا فَعَدْ, if they come to hurt you again and they force you to do it, say it. Why? Because his heart is sound with iman. قال ومن كفر من بعد إيمانه إلا من أكره وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان. So someone forced to say the words of blasphemy, he will say it as long as his heart is sound of iman. This is the realistic part. I mean, being like, this is our reality. Someone he subhanallah, he cannot stand even to be hit. Someone says, say this against your religion. He will say it. Why? Because he doesn't want, to be killed. He's scared. That's the reality of the nature of the human being. Right? That's the minimum one. As long as your heart is sound with iman. The highest is to stand and to fight, and when be killed, you will be in the level of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. But not everyone is asked to be in the level of Hamza. You understand? So that's the levels, you see? That's always there is a minimum, and there always have the highest. Another example, for example, into someone talk, in his talking falsehood, that's haram. Talking, any talk, vain talk, that's makruh. Busy your tongue with the dhikr of Allah, that's the best. So you see the level. So I said there's type of talk that you need to get rid of, which is makruh, the haram. It's forbidden. That's the minimum. But talk about vain talk. Someone need to reduce it and replace it by the dhikr of Allah. And this is, you see the levels into the talk. So will be the realistic way is someone to hold his tongue from backbiting, from gossiping, from lying and everything. The best, the highest is just to busy his tongue with the remembrance of Allah, and to have the quality of samt that we say. So not speak at all, but only when he speaks, he say good. لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined for you the best of the speech. To enjoy people, to give, to help. أمر بصدقة أو معروف, enjoy people to do good. أو إصلاح بين الناس, or to make peace between people. So that's the best of the najwa, of the talk. But doesn't mean that someone will not talk in anything else. So that's the a'la. And waqi'iyatul Islam, the practicality of Islam, how realistic and meet the requirement of every life. It is at the time of hardship, Islam find for you the way out. He give you the permission. You are sick, you cannot pray standing, you can pray laying down. You can't pray sitting down. If you are sick, traveling, and you're fasting, you break your fast. And in all, even in the things that haram becomes halal in time of hardship. As in the qa'idah, we have the principle al-daruriyat tubihu al-mahdhurat. This is the principle of the daruriyat, state of necessity, when extreme hardship, it make halal what is forbidden. Someone, he doesn't have any food, he's disconnected from any place or help, and he only have the haram in front of him. He has haram thing, he has to eat it. In condition, he has to eat it to save his life, even though it's haram. So this is how practical and realistic Islam to be practiced and to be implemented in the life of every human being in all the time. Those are the characteristics of Islam. I'll go in brief about the system of Islam. Why we introduced the system, the Islamic subsystem in Islam. This is for the da'i, is important to know them. It's important to know them, because if you go to call for the deen of Allah, you have to have the knowledge of the system of Islam. knowing the characteristic, know Islam how is relevant, know Islam how is practical, know Islam how the system, he has all the tools and the mechanism to really offer the solution at any time, in any generation, in any space. Those are the characteristics. Now when you come to the system, how people they interact together, what is the most important things, how the organization of the society is set, that's also for the da'iyah to know. It might be a whole class to do that. The first one, we go through them inshallah. The first one, we're not going to study them, but to mention that, and someone can, it will be for him, to have it as the plan inshallah, when he has time to go study at, in someone's need, because sometimes someone depends on a conversation, on a discussion of people, what they ask him, he say, I know, this is, I find it into this type of system, of related to the system of Islam. The first one is the system of akhlaq. This point, it's enough for us to go through the whole system. First, exhaustiveness of akhlaq. What means exhaustiveness of akhlaq? The famous great hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, اتق الله حيثما كنت. Fear Allah wherever you are. And wherever you are, you have to conduct as a Muslim. Behave as a Muslim wherever you are. You respect the elder into your town, you have to respect it also when you are in a foreign country, when nobody knows you. Have nice with the needy and with the weak one. You do it in your town, not because you do it for people, because their standard is that, so you don't want to be like being criticized. When you go out, you'll be someone who's oppressive, rigid, harsh to people. No. Exhaustiveness of akhlaq is to behave and have the conduct wherever you are. At the school, in university, in your job, in the means of transportation, when traveling in different country, different town, that's the exhaustiveness of the akhlaq. And exhaustiveness, of the akhlaq, also that what we talk about the balance in the akhlaq. So now someone, you need to have, the sidq. When he's truthful, he's also need to keep his promise, because keeping his promise is part of the sidq, etc., etc. The second one is the system of akhlaq in Islam, obligation of the presence of morals in means and goals. In means and goals. The akhlaq need to be present. The akhlaq in Islam is a spirit, is a soul in every action. Because akhlaq has two aspects. The aspect as you have in the khuluq, what is part of your iman. Because your iman start to give its fruit when you do it with akhlaq. Yeah. You cannot praying and someone he's a liar. It doesn't go. It's not going to help him. It's not going to increase his iman. The love of Allah is from the akhlaq. The love of the Prophet ﷺ is from the akhlaq. Truthfulness is from the akhlaq. All of that is those from the akhlaq. The trust in Allah, those is the ibadah, but is from the akhlaq. Now, the etiquette and the good manner is of the akhlaq. So, how can you send, when someone send a word, he say a word. If you want it to be heard, you're going to target the heart. If you're going to target the heart, you're going to have, beautify this communication with the good khuluq, with the right etiquette. You talk nice with the understood words and not harsh, etc. And not to insult. If you want to advise, don't make the advice as insult. Don't make the advice as criticizing a person. Take him nicely, find the right moment, all of that. So the akhlaq comes, as we said, in the means and the goals. And someone cannot, for example, because of his goal, he will do anything. So we don't have in Islam the goals justify the means. Allahu tayyib la yaqbalu illa tayyib. Allah is pure, only accepted what is pure. Allah will not ask you to give zakat out of making haram money. No. Seek first the halal. When Allah give you yughnik, give you enough, income, you do the zakat. But don't say, I'm making money to give in the sake of Allah. Allah will not accept it from you. Or making lies, forging lies just to get to a situation when you think you're going to do good. Like those who are saying, we want the people to love the Prophet ﷺ, so we're making up hadith for this reason. Say, you are ruining and you are lying on the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah? The next point, in the system of the akhlaq, the correlation between akhlaq, belief, and piety. That's the whole system together. It's a whole system together. So you cannot dissociate the akhlaq from the law of Allah, from the implementation of the law of Allah, from your own belief. It's one system. That's the one system. For example, greed in the heart is going to lead to hatred. Is going to lead to envy. Is going to lead to conflict. And conflict and hatred is going to, subhanallah, lead someone to be deviate. Why? Because by hatred he's going to do mischief. He's going to do a transgression. So he's going to fall into mischief. Therefore, the akhlaq and the iman and the belief, all of them are one system. All of them are one system. You cannot dissociate them. And this is in Islam. This is in the spirit of the akhlaq. The next system is the social system. The social system, as you see, is based on these four aspects. The first, the Islamic brotherhood, al-ukhuwatu fil Islam. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ أَخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. So if there is conflict between brother or sister, it will be the whole community to run to make peace between them, to bring them together. Why? Because the asl, the root, the principle, the common into the standard of the Islamic society is brotherhood. So division will be, subhanallah, the division will be the greatest sin that really hurt the whole society. The second aspect is to stop any type of tribalism or fanaticism, because that hurt the whole society. لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ دَعَا إِلَىٰ عَصَبِيَّةٍ. It's not from us, not among our followers, not from my way, the Prophet ﷺ, whoever who called to a type of tribalism or fanaticism. In this society, the best among them, the most honored, is the pious, as the tool of differentiation and preferring one to another is piety. The rest will be, subhanallah, everyone that Allah provides him is a trial for him. Someone has a lot of money, is a trial. So someone has, subhanallah, any type, he's a good looking, is a trial. So the best is the one who has a piety. The best is the one who has a piety. And the Prophet ﷺ in the Munich hadith, he said the people can be four types of people. Someone who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him money and gave him righteousness, piety. Therefore, he using his money with his way of righteousness. He's giving the sake of Allah, etc. And a man who have a piety who doesn't have money, he wishing that if Allah give him money like the rich one, he will do the same thing. Allah will reward them both the same. They will have the same reward. The same reward. Someone has $1 million, okay? He's a millionaire. And he's managing his money, pleasing Allah with it. Of course, he gets whatever he need, and he's very generous person, and he's doing what pleases Allah. Someone who doesn't have anything, he look at this man, and he wish for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, if Allah will grant me money like him, I will do better than him in the sake of Allah. And he's sincere. Allah knows that he's sincere. ده قال فهم في الأجر سواء. They have the same, the both reward, the same reward. You come in the day of judgment, they have the same reward. That's the beauty of Islam. That's how you build the society. He will not envy him. He will ask Allah to give him more. But he envy in a way to compete in righteousness, in action, not in getting, like I say, like he wish that Allah will destroy everything he has. Why? Because he doesn't have it. That's envy. That disease that kill this unity in the society. And two others, someone who has a lot of money, using it in disobeying Allah, in all sins. And someone who doesn't have money, and he wished to have money to do it like the other guy. Say, if I have money, I will have, he has one yacht, I will have two. He has this, I will have this. He doing this type of parties, I will do it like more red. Red means like more haram. قال فهم في الوزر سواء. They come at the day of judgment, they have the same thing. So the other guy has money, he did everything, and the other guy, he only dreamed. They will be in the wizr sawa. They will have the same burden in the day of judgment because of their intention. So the tool of differentiation is the piety, taqwa, righteousness. The fourth one in the social, how to establish society, the social justice in the society or in a state, is to have the justice as a spirit and soul of all the action. Justice and fairness need to be in every action, And we mentioned last time the definition of justice is to put things where they do belong and to give everyone his right. If someone will do it with himself, with his family, with his children, with his brother, with his sister, everything will be subhanallah. That's how from the individual you reach the social justice of the whole society. The next system, the system of al-ifta. The system of al-ifta, it's really crucial into the system of Islam. Achieve the objective of making available to people the solution necessary to implement the manhaj, the way of Allah, in all time and space. And this is the ijtihad, which is, let's say, the lung of the Islamic system. So those who know Islam and how to hurt Islam, they want to kill the mechanism of ijtihad. Now, the system of ifta in the Islamic state, it has, let's say it's like a whole department filled with the scholars. So it's a very dynamic action. For anyone who has an issue, they give him the verdict. Why? Because every believer seeking the pleasure of Allah, right, in his action. He comes to an issue, he doesn't know what to do. My decision needs to be, a decision that its consequences leads to the pleasure of Allah. I don't know what to do. Go to the people of knowledge, they're going to tell you. So whatever the people of knowledge they give him as a verdict, that's for him a way how to get closer to Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because he's going to act upon the pleasure of Allah, that he believes that verdict is a deen. That's why the fatwa is a deen. The fatwa is a deen. And this is how important the system in the Islamic system. The next one is the system of hisbah. Al-hisbah in Islam is also big department in the Islamic system of ruling. Al-hisbah is the department who's taken in care, observing the enjoying good and forbid evil. And enjoying good will be to revive a good that there's signs of disappearing of this good in the society. There is sunnah, people that used to do it, something good, and people are neglecting it. They make type of action to bring it back into the society. people, for example, they start to visit each other from, how long you didn't see your relatives? Say, yeah, it's been a long time. So they analyze it. How to revive it, for example, this is how to revive this good, khasla, this good characteristic in the society in the time of technology. So they make, effort to bring it back. So that's called al-amru bil-ma'ruf here, is to bring back a good quality into the society when it's going to disappear. And from the other hand, is to stop and try to avoid from the society a sin that appearing. They start to see, for example, in some neighborhood, some people, they start to come to the neighborhood drunk. Nobody talked to them. Nobody stopped them. The next time you see the kids laughing at them. After the kids laughing at them, the adults, they're going to be laughing at them. After that, it becomes normal to someone to be drunk in the street. And here, it becomes like normal, and that sensitivity toward how the khamr is forbidden is going to reduce. So the shaitan is going to be easy for him to push someone to drink. So when he started small, that's the system of the Hizbah they jump to, eradicate this appearance of the sin. That's the system of the Hizbah in Islam. And then we have the system of ruling in Islam, which mainly the objective of the system of ruling is to establish the deen of Allah on earth. And the system of ruling in Islam is not governing and ruling from above in a way to contain everything under their ruling. No, the system of ruling in Islam is to assure the execution of the law, the divine law, in its best way. That's it. So like watcher, because the system is there. Like people, they know how to play, they're good in games. The referee, he's the one who keep everything working, for the game to go smooth, if you can say. That's the system of ruling. That's the leader in Islam. That's the Amir or the Khalifa or whoever will be a chief of state. That's his position. Is to observe and protect the execution of the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why in this system, it is big responsibility. Why? Because of observing the execution of the system of Allah, he's dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's like he had the amana of the system of Allah to be implemented. He observing it and assure its execution. That's why the pious, he will never ask for it. Because the leadership here, it's not a place of honor. It is a place of responsibility. And knowing how big is the responsibility, the leader, the one who deserves it, he will never ask for it. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, will not give the leadership for the one who asks for it. The one who asking for it, he doesn't know how big is the responsibility. How it's going to be a big regret in the day of judgment if someone will not fulfill it in the right way. And that's why even the Mahdi, that in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the Muslims, they wanted to be their leader, their Amir, they will force him in the hadith that he will be in Mecca. People, they force him because he didn't want it. He doesn't want it. They beg him to take it. They force him. This is a big subject. Anyway. طيب. The next one, inshallah, we'll do it in brief. The da'wah Of course, the economic system, the penal system in Islam, all of that, the hudud, we've been talking about it, but they're not, for this subject for us, as important as this system that we give some, a little bit of summary on it. The next part is الداعية. This da'iyah, this main important point, inshallah, which will be the heart of this part. It is the provision of the da'iyah. The provision of the da'iyah, we can summarize them in three points. 3 points. The first point, al-fahmu al-daqiq, the deep understanding, or the accurate understanding. Al-fahmu al-daqiq, the accurate understanding. The second one, al-iman al-amiq, the strong, deep belief. The third one, al-ittisal al-wathiq, the very close attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's good, right?
The third one?
Al-ittisal al-wathiq, close connection with Allah. Al-fahm al-daqiq, al-iman al-amiq, al-ittisal al-wathiq. Those are the provision of the da'iyah. Al-fahm al-daqiq, in few words. The first characteristic, the first pillar of the accurate understanding is al-ilmu qabla al-amal, knowledge before action. فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنبِكَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, know Allah first. Know the greatness of oneness of Allah. Then ask forgiveness. Because asking forgiveness without knowing Allah, you didn't ask forgiveness. You're just saying words, you didn't mean, you didn't know what it means. But you know the greatness of Allah. You discover in yourself your need to Allah. Then you feel the extreme need to be forgiven. Al-ilmu qabla al-amal.
What's the ayah?
The Surah Muhammad, ayah 19. And when we talk about the knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَقُلْ رَبِّي زِدْنِي عِلْمًا, Oh Allah, increase my knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate those who acquiring knowledge, darajat, high level. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He complimented the people of knowledge to be from those who witness His greatness and His oneness. Shahida Allah, Allah witnessed that there is no God except Him. And His malaika, wal malaika, wa ulul ilmi, and the people of knowledge. And when we're talking about the accurate understanding, start first knowledge before action, and the best of the knowledge to start with is the ilm of al-akhirah. Ilmu tariq al-akhirah, the knowledge of the path of the hereafter. And this accurate understanding starts with one aspect, is to contemplate and reflect in the book of Allah. That's the start. كتاب أنزلناه إليك مبارك ليدبروا آياته وليتذكر أولو الألباب. A book we sent down to you full of blessing, for His ayat to be reflected and contemplated. And in Tadabbur al-Quran, then subhanallah, someone will see what type of knowledge he needs. And when to find it, you find it in the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah said about those who do mischief, قال أفلا يتدبرون القرآن أم على قلوب أقفالها. Don't they ponder on the book of Allah, or they have, luck on their hearts? What are the pillars of this type of understanding? The first one is for the da'iyah to know his purpose of life and his role into the society. He needs to know his purpose of life. So he make this purpose of life and role into the society as initiation, as way to build his action. What you want to do, why you want to do this, and someone, he really define his purpose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talked about the kuffar, he said, قال والذين كفروا يتمتعون ويأكلون كما تأكل الأنعام والنار مثوى لهم. The non-believer, they are enjoying themselves and they eat like the cattle do, subhanallah. And where they gonna go? They're gonna go to the punishment of hellfire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about the leader of mischief, like Fir'aun and his army. قال أولئك يدعون إلى النار. They are people who call to hellfire. So what is your purpose of life? Is to call to the Allah, you call to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by targeting to be embraced in the mercy of Allah. And then the purpose of life to be like the ibadah. And the ibadah not only limited or restricted in a few actions, but the ibadah for the whole way of life to be, devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ بِإِذْنِهِ. Allah called to His paradise and His forgiveness. So the da'iyah will have this purpose to what Allah called for, he will be calling for. يَا أَيُّهَا الْإِنسَانُ إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَى رَبِّكَ كَدْحًا فَمُلَقِيهِ. You are striving, a hard striving in your life, that you're going to meet Allah in the end. So choose your way of striving. You're going to meet Allah anyway. Should not be your way of striving be in the way that pleases Allah. When you come to Allah, He will be pleased with you. So this is the ghaya. This is how the da'iyah, structure and define his way of striving in this life. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اركعوا واسجدوا واعبدوا ربكم وافعلوا الخير لعلكم تفلحون. This ayah, it gives us the pillar of the understanding, which is, as we said, al-ghayatu, defining the purpose of life and the role into the among people. This ayah is Surah Al-Hajj, ayah 77 and ayah 78. O you who believe, prostrate to Allah, make sujood, worship Allah, and do good, waf'alul khayr, that you may be successful. And this amazing ayah, اركعوا واسجدوا واعبدوا ربكم وافعلوا الخير. اركعوا is like submit to Allah, make a lot of sujood, and by doing this you are connected with Allah. That's how the worship is going to take its image, its form, its structure. After you have the root and the base, that's when you go to do the good. That's when the good has a fruit. That's when the good, doing the good action has a taste. And then, قال وجاهدوا في الله حق جهاده. Strive in the sake of Allah, the best you can. هو جتباكم وما جعل عليكم في الدين من حرج. He's the one who selected you. He's the one who gifted you with this. And He didn't put any burden on you in the practice of your deen. ملة أبيكم إبراهيم هو سماكم المسلمين من قبل. The way of your father Ibrahim. The way of the father of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Look, Ibrahim, how alayhi salam lived his life in the sake of Allah. So it's not like making the action like bold image with no life. Look, Ibrahim alayhi salam. The way of his trust, the way of his sabr. So the way of Ibrahim is like, this is the path and this is the action you're going to do. How are you going to feel the action? That enthusiasm, that love of Allah, that submission, that's what Ibrahim alayhi salam is teaching us. Millata abikum Ibrahim. And Ibrahim, in one of the explanation of this ayah, who was sammakum Muslim? He's the one who called you Muslim. قال, is in dua when he was building the Kaaba. ربنا واجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة. So the way that he called Islam, Muslim, is like fully submitted to Allah. Fully, devoted to Allah. Fully trust in Allah. Confidence in Allah. Love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Doing everything for Allah. That's the millah of Ibrahim. So he said, Millah atabi, the way of your father Ibrahim, that he called you Muslim. He called you, Ya Allah, make us Muslimayni laka wa min dhurriyatina ummatan muslimatan lak. Wa fi hadha. Now when you do this, look what great honor you will have. The Prophet is going to be witness on you. And you're going to be witness over the mankind. Can you imagine? You be witness of the mankind because you being the one devote to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the one who carried this big amana. How to carry this big amana? By fulfilling this great purpose of life. And the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Nuh alayhi salam, he will be asked in the day of judgment, when his people they deny that Nuh gave them the message. He said to Allah, Ya Nuh, you didn't convey the message, and Allah knows. He said, oh yeah, Ya Allah, I did. He said, do you have a witness? Do you have a witness for you? He said, yes, Ummatu Muhammad. The Ummah of Muhammad, they witness for me. Because we read it in the Quran, we observed it, we lived it, we taught it, and we have it as example. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the one who sent it. And the book that never altered is the book of Allah. So we will be the witness for Nuh alayhi salam. What a great position. The second one in Arkan al-Fahm al-Daqiq is التجافي عن دار الغرور والتعلق بالآخرة, is someone not to be attached to the dunya, but to be attached to the akhirah. وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَمَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Whatever you have, this is the commodity of this dunya. وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. And whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has is far better and everlasting. That's a pillar in the life of the believer, the da'iyah. وَمَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. Whatever you have from the dunya is going to perish, and whatever Allah provide you is everlasting. Those are the two pillars that help someone to come to the accurate understanding. Now, al-fahmu, we need to understand. Al-fahmu, you cannot gain it by your effort. Al-fahmu is a gift given to you by Allah. So what we studied here, what are the conditions to fulfill for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you understand? Because sometimes someone will be like trying hard. Huh? And he cannot come to understand. And suddenly he feels like, yes, he said, that's a gift from Allah. And in the same time, don't be, shocked for people how they cannot understand it. They cannot understand it not because it's obvious. They cannot understand it because you're being gifted to understand it. They cannot see it. So al-fahm al-daqiq is a gift from Allah, that you can have it when you provide and you fulfill the condition that we mentioned. Sorry. 5 minutes and I'll let you go. The second one, al-iman al-aqmiq, the deep iman. The deep iman is, is based on two aspects also. Is the certain knowledge of the oneness of Allah. Certainty. That's so your iman is based on certainty. Islam, there's no doubt that is the Islam. The second, bayyinatun rasikha, the proof of Islam need to be fully settled in the heart. If the whole world is against Allah, be the one who's standing on the way of Allah. Ibrahim kana ummah, he was alone. And in the end, who was successful? Ibrahim or his people? That's subhanallah. That the da'i, whatever happened, whatever you see, like everyone turn away, everyone confused about Islam, everyone doubt about Islam, ilmun qat'i wa bayyinatun rasikha. Full certain knowledge that Allah will fulfill His promise. And that need to be that's the iman, what you say, deep iman. At the time of difficulty, that iman will never shake. That's the iman al-amiq. Without it, someone cannot stand to make, the real da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the da'i is going to face a trial. And this is require two things. The love of Allah is a big chapter. The fear from Allah, and the third is the hope in Allah. So it's like some of the scholars describe it like a flying bird. The body is the fear, one wing is the love, the other wing is, the body is the love. The body is the love. One wing is hope and the other wing is fear, to keep the balance. Al-ittisal al-wathiq, the close connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you feel that Allah is with you and never let you down. قال ربنا إننا نخاف أن يفرط علينا أو أن يطغى موسى and Harun. They said, yeah Allah, we are concerned that this tyrant, he might go beyond his limit and he going to hurt us and kill us. قال Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لا تخافا, don't have any fear. إنني معكما أسمع وأرى. I'm with you, I hear and I see. Al-ittisal al-wathiq, when you are close to Allah, at any moment Allah is with you. He's listening and He's hearing subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's seeing you. As the Prophet ﷺ in that beautiful hadith, يقول اللهم إنك تعلم مكاني وتسمع كلامي ولا يخفى عنك شيء من سري ولا علانيتي. Ya Allah, you know my place and you hear my voice, and nothing can be hidden from what I conceive or what I say. So you are with Allah. That's the ittisal. That's the ittisal. We'll stop here, inshallah. Inshallah, if we'll have another opportunity, or if you want, you can organize another class. We can continue to talk about, for example, an hour or 2 hours, if you want, inshallah, anytime. Be in the night time, not next week, because I'm gonna be traveling, inshallah. طيب. Any question? Those are the provision of the day. The way of the da'wah, the strategy of the da'wah, you can get it. I have the khutbah of last Friday, عليكم أنفسكم. The way to understand that ayah, if you explore it, that will be the best way of the da'wah in our time. That's be the way of the best of the da'wah. is to protect yourself and to limit your relation with anyone else into what the contract require you to do. Your relation with the person study, you keep with the study. Business, you keep in business. And really have the circle of yours to be those who help you increase your iman. عليكم أنفسكم. The Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy al Munkar will be at least to strive to not lose that sensitivity of denying the munkar. We are in this society today. And your behavior will do the best in your way of that. Inshallah. جزاكم الله خيرا.